Relatively quick overview of After Effects for either people who were not in class or people who just kind of missed a few things. So let me just run through things. Again, I'll try to keep this pretty quick. This is the basic After Effects window. Here's where the timeline's going to be created. These are the composition settings. We make compositions here. That's what it's called. Here's making a new composition, this button. This is where the project assets are stored. And keep in mind that all these different things are menu related. So we're going to start with, I already have a new project up. We're going to start by making a new composition. We can click that button, or we can come up here and go to new composition. Same thing. The default time is 30 seconds, but I'm going to try to keep these relatively short. So I'll just make a 10-second composition. And you can pick the background color that works for you. We'll make a very light blue and call that good and say OK. So here's my composition. It's 1920 by 1080. I'm looking at it at only 50%. And I'm working at half resolution. I don't want to run my computer super high if I have a lot of effects going on here. You certainly can, but you'll find it'll slow down depending on the computer you're using and what you're doing. So you can change the resolution. This is only how you view it. It's not how it actually is, okay? So that's really key to know. So I'm just going to start with a pretty basic thing. We're going to make a square bounce around. Remember, just like Photoshop and the other one, you hold these down, you get different keys, okay? So we'll make a rectangle. We'll actually make a square. To do that, just hold the Shift key down and draw it out. You'll see that my center point, my anchor point, is actually in the center of my square. And that's a good thing. That's what I wanted to happen. It doesn't happen by default. You have to set that in your preferences. So go to After Effects, Preferences, General, and make sure that Center Anchor Point in New Shape Layers is checked. That way, you will have your anchor point in the middle of your objects. All right? So this is my shape layer. I'm actually going to push the return key and rename it, and I'll call it square. That way, if I get a bunch of other things, I'll know what that is. When you have a bunch of things, they're kind of closed up like this. But I can animate a whole bunch of different things about this. If I just click it and I type P, I get position. Now I can work with position. If I type S, I get scale. T is opacity, and all those sorts of things. If I type U, they go away. And I can just open this up and go to transform. And now I can work with all of these different buttons. All right, those shortcuts are in the handout. I'm going to start by animating position. And you'll see I clicked that and I made my first keyframe, and scale. All right, and I made my first keyframe there. So before anything, I'm going to make sure I am on my square, which I am, and I'm going to go ahead and move this right off the board. All right, so when my animation starts, position and scale are right there. I actually forgot to scale things down, so I'm going to scale it way down. Okay. Now, as my timeline goes by, I'm at 1 second, 2 second. I want my little square. Whoops, I don't want to do it that way, actually. My bad. I want to slide my square up. And I'm going to hold the Shift key down because I'm already at the end of my screen. And I also want the scale to go up, not crazy amount. Okay, so very simple animation. It's just gonna come up and get bigger as it does. And you know what? I want to do one more thing. Now I want to be on my first keyframes and see how they just lit up here. That's key. I want to also rotate it. So over the space of this time, get to my next keyframes and see how they lit up right there, so I know I'm on them. I'm going to rotate this, let's say 360, all right? 359, but we'll make it an exact 360 so I know it's straight. So one full rotation. Actually, you know what? Let's make it rotate 8 full times. Would be crazy. So here it goes, going right up, it's spinning, and then ends right there. Okay? Very, very simple thing. Now, a couple quick things. Let's say that my anchor point was not actually in the center. All right? Let's say my anchor point, I'm not going to move it this way, but let's say my anchor point was someplace else. I can use this pan behind tool. I can just type Y or I can click it. And now I can actually move my anchor point to a new location. So if my anchor point was like over here at the corner, right, I can use the pan behind tool and I can now move it manually. But the other thing I can do is I can go to Layer, Transform, and I can go Center Anchor Point in the layer content, and it'll put it in the exact center. Otherwise, if your anchor point is on the corner and you're rotating, you're going to be rotating around that corner, and you want things to happen in the center, generally. Okay? So that's pretty simple. The other thing is that I want these keyframes to work really smoothly. I want my motion to go really nice and smooth. So I selected them all. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go to Keyframe Assistant. We have the same thing in Premiere, by the way. And I'm going to go to Easy Ease. Easy Ease now puts a kind of like a smoothness on things. There's linear and easy ease, and easy ease makes things easy, smooth. So now there's a little bit more and it spins. Okay, very good. One more thing I'm going to add, you'll see that as things are moving, now it's moving fast so you can't quite tell, but it stays sharp. Okay, that square is, the edges are always sharp. But if you put your hand in front of your face and you move it around, it's blurry. It's natural motion blur. So we have this button here, motion blur, and it simulates what we would naturally see. So I'm going to turn that on as well. And now I have that little bit of motion blur. Okay? So that's kind of the basics, the very, very basics. A couple more things. Let's say that I made my shape layer and I want to get it right in the center of my composition, or maybe I made a text layer. Let's do that really quick. See how if I click off square and I make a text layer, it made a, whoops, my bad. It makes a new layer here, okay? It made a shape layer, which I didn't mean to do. I meant to make a text layer. I pushed the wrong button. So now I've made a text layer right down here. If I want to make my name, let's say that I want, I'll get rid of my square for a second. Let's say that I want my name in the dead center. Well, I have a couple things. My anchor point is not really in the center. So I'm going to go to Layer, and I'm going to go to Transform, Center Anchor Point in Layer. There we go. And I also want this to appear in the center. Right here is a line. If I don't see it here, I can go to Window, and I can turn on a line. And whoops, I definitely didn't want to do that. Hang on one second. Let's go back to Window. So if you mess things up like I just did, okay, go back to Window, Workspace, and reset to saved layout, and now you're right back in touch again. So let's say that I want to align this. I'm going to go to Window, Align, and I'm right here. I'm going to align it horizontally and vertically, and now I'm in the dead center. Okay? So now my, and since that doesn't really work for my animation, I'm actually going to move it up. All right? Just like anything else, I have all these character windows. I can adjust size. I can adjust font, all that kind of stuff. Okay? I can also change the color. If I'm selected, this is my current color. Let's say I want to make my name in that color. There it goes. I don't have a stroke around my name. Let's say I want to do that. I can click stroke. I can activate that. Now I have this crazy little name thing. Okay, so here's my little quick animation. All right, and that's the real basics. So I hope that's helpful. I will definitely want to see questions. And this is all about practice, getting in there, getting stuck, and then figuring it out. All right, thanks.